Hey, let's talk about what I did today at work without any clips or B-roll or anything like that. Just pure narrative substance coming from my mouth. So today at work, I got a couple stuff done. First off, I did a practice presentation for my data science team um, on, on my final presentation for the company. The way it's working is that as an intern, we have to present what we've been doing the whole summer. Like, what have you been paying us? Like, what was the return on your investment, kind of, and just to show our learnings to get a better idea of what's really going on in the company in different divisions. So I have that next week. So my team at US and just engagement, the data science team said, hey, let's do a practice presentation. So I did that today. It went really well. I think I spoke, actually, no, I'm not going to say criticize myself. I think I spoke at a moderate pace, maybe leaning on a bit on the faster side, but it was pretty good when it came to the pace. I talked about the RAG evaluation project. What I did realize before doing the presentation though is that I've been leaning for my summer project. I've been leaning a lot more on the RAG evaluation because I think that's where a lot of the novelty and challenge comes in. But I also just want I also kind of abandoned the RAG pipeline because the RAG pipeline is pretty simple stuff. Not gonna lie, it's really just using like vector embeddings and then using LLM to give the vector embeddings or the retrieve documents to use as context. So it's not crazy. Where RAG pipelines or RAG just in general becomes more interesting is when you have to account for different type of questions. So what I did to improve my RAG pipeline before going to the presentation was I kind of changed it to it routes the. So let's say you ask a general question, right? Like, oh, tell me about what's going on in this division of science and or this division of technology. Like, what are the safety standards for coffee pots? It will give you like a broad overview. However, if you have like an ambiguous question that's referencing something specific, like what are the test requirements for this, it will say, here, pick all these standards that we have in our knowledge base so I can actually give you a proper answer that you're looking for. Instead of me giving you Frankenstein monster of an answer, it says you're probably referring to a specific document. So I'd rather you tell me the specific document you're referring to, and I can give you the answer based off that document. So that's one of the stuff that I improved about the RAG pipeline. I think that's where it becomes more interesting. So in the what I've been looking to do is just improve the RAG pipeline in general and just not focus too much on the RAG eval because that's been done to a bit to a T kind of. There's improvements to be made, but pretty solid work. So I did the presentation. It went well. Got some feedback. I watched it. I did that. Got some questions. Followed up with the questions I didn't know, and I think that was really good. Because when I got asked a question, I like didn't know the answer to, or I just wasn't sure. I didn't lie. I don't think there's any need to lie. Because you're not really trying to impress people. I don't think that's the core goal of practice presentations. It's much more trying to get a better understanding of what you're doing, where you're at. So I didn't lie. I said I didn't know this. I didn't know that. Then immediately followed up with the answers. For example, one was a matter of basically testing like does the RAG since the RAG uses an LLM large language model that's trained on the whole internet and all that, will they answer general questions that are not related to the work that we do at UL Standards and Engagement? And the question was no. However, I wasn't fully sure. I suspected it was no. I think I played around with that question myself, but I said I don't know for sure. I gave a general understanding of how I think it works, but I said I made it very clear that I wasn't clear. Didn't know for sure. Then later at the end of the day, I kind of followed up with I tested it with different use cases. For example, tell me about SpongeBob or tell me how to get from Disneyland from Chicago. And the RAG pipeline basically says, no, I can't do that for you because that's not what we do here. So I followed up. I also followed up with how like the intrinsic evaluation calculations work. So that was like stuff that I didn't know. I was very clear about that and followed up. So that was really cool. Then after the RAG pipeline presentation, not the RAG pipeline. After my presentation to the data science team, there was a picnic that was just really cool. I played volleyball with some coworkers. Really fun time. I really love volleyball. I wish I did more of it. Maybe that's something I might do at UMD. Did that. Got back to the office sweating. But before the decided to head back, I um, I said, okay, let me improve my RAG pipeline because one thing I want to do is because the RAG pipeline is utilized through a chat interface. So I want to improve the UI. For that, I just improve it in general. So I did some adjustments there. I've been looking more into like how can I improve the chat interface because I think the angle I'm looking at it from is that as engineers, I think these are the core users of the RAG interface when it comes to dealing with standards like this. So I think they want something efficient. They wouldn't want something like Pi AI, which is much more, I guess, personal, comfortable. I think it was like there was something where it's like the bare efficiency of it. I think that could be a misunderstanding of sort, but I think from for now, that's how I'm going to be approaching it. So I've been trying to take it from that angle, but something that's not like too foreign to them. So something that still follows the casual or the um the consensus of user interface ideas when it comes to chat interfaces for large language models. So that's what I've been looking into. It's been going well. Color scheme wise, I haven't really changed it that much. I'll probably do that tomorrow. But some core adjustments I made or I'm looking to make is one I made was that instead of presenting the when it comes to specifying the standards you're working on, instead of presenting horizontal, I said, okay, let's do vertical and actually provide the titles. It's not just like, oh, here's standard 1069, here's standard 76, here's standard 101. It has like the titles. That's a small adjustment, but does a lot. It means a lot, and it impacts a lot. Um, and the other one I was doing was a matter of just adding more functionality to the whole chat interface by having because what I do is like there's different tools or different agents to call upon depending on the user's query. So then, for example, if I want them, if like the ambiguity thing, so if there's an ambiguity query that's probably referring to a specific document or standard, it says, okay, specify. But if it's not, it just does the regular RAG pipeline. So I was adding more functionality. I was adding one where it could do some comparison. So basically, if I want to compare two standards to see where I could bring some nuance or I could update the standard, because that's something we also do at your standard engagements to maintain these standards to make sure they're up to date with the evolving technology we have and as a society. So I've been able to compare standards and see like, well, okay, where do they fall short or where can new things be added is something that's probably very useful. So then I'm working on adding that functionality. Yeah, that's why I got stuck, I believe. So I'll keep on working on that tomorrow. And then after that wrapped up, headed back home and called it a nice day of work. I think that's what I really like about work is just that it's like, it's, let me phrase this very carefully. It's a very fun job. I think it's challenging. I don't want to say it's like, oh, it's just everything is easy. I think there's definitely challenges, especially as you embark on bigger, more impactful problems. However, it's challenging yet it's still so flexible and so much fun to like overcome those problems. I think what I think is interesting is that I did a job last summer where I was a summer camp counselor or operations assistant, whatever role I gave myself on LinkedIn. Um, and then that job, I would argue, is much harder than this. It's like much more time consuming. However, this job pays way more, and yet it's much more rewarding. I don't know how to explain it in the sense of like, in the sense that I think it's too. I like this niche of work I do. I think a big worry of mine is that a big fear of mine. So I've been very public about this. Is that eventually I'm going to reach a point in computer science where I can't just overcome a hurdle. It's going to be like some equation that's so integral to the field of computer science or math that I just can't understand for some reason, and I would have to leave computer science to do something that I don't really like. But as I continue to embark on challenges like this or journeys like this, I encounter problems I don't understand or problems I can't fully fix. I've come to realize that it's like I don't think that fear is as practical as I thought it once was. I don't think it's gonna be one problem in computer science that's gonna like stop me from pursuing the field. Because that's just the field in general. Like, there's a lot of stuff I do that I don't know how to do, and I think that's a lot of the joy in doing it. Because like you get to go to a whiteboard, you get put on some like music, and it's like you have to like you start drawing ideas and start planning stuff out and hoping it works. And it doesn't work, and then you improve and improve, and eventually it does work. Or maybe if it doesn't work, you get close enough to a point where someone else can even like take that where you are and where you stopped at and improve it. And I think that's something that's really cool, especially when it comes to this internship. Because I do know a lot of the stuff I'm making are not the final product, not the final end goal for the project. However, they're going to be the building stones of something new, especially with what I'm working on. Because I know for UL Science engagement, I hope this is not confidential information, but hoping to build that RAG pipeline that people can use. And having a RAG eval thing, I think that was more so my idea, I believe. But having a RAG eval would allow us to continue to benchmark the updates and the upgrades to to our RAG pipeline, which is something I think is really important because it's one thing to look at benchmarks online and say, hey, this model is doing really well, this embedded model is really great, this is really good for all this and that. But to have an internal benchmark that you can run these models against actually allows you to make the right improvements instead of just following the crowd or flow wherever. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited just in general. I think it's a cool internship. I'm really, really grateful. It's been really amazing. Just to end on a tidbit note that's not really related, but more so, about the technical stuff, I really want to try out Google's embedding model. I have not used it yet. I know for Rio the Ragbot, I used a much cheaper embedding model, and I think it was Mr. I think it was a Hugging Face one actually. Now I think about it. And this one I'm not using it. I propose we should use it and just try it out. I know they're looking at different models, so that's gonna be really cool to see what they end up going with. But I just want to try out. 'Cause I wonder how big of a difference it actually makes. Kind of adds more dimensionality, and I think contains more information, or relationships. Or I guess information would contain more relationships just by consequently, when it comes to the embedding of like documents and chunks. So I really want to try that out. Another thing I found about this morning or yesterday morning was Darkling, which actually does like it pre-processes the document before you chunk it up to be turned into embedding. So it can identify like entities within documents. An entity could be something for like a graph, a picture, two paragraphs that go together. Those could be like entities, and it recognizes the relationship between that. So instead of chunking that apart and ruining the relationship or the context within those entities, it keeps them together. So I really want to try Darklink. I think it'll be really cool to see how that works. I know that's something I was struggling a bit with the Rio Ragwa, which was using using a fairly small document, which was the allocation manual. So I would really love to see how it performs. I also really want to try RAG on images. I think that's something I haven't been thinking about a lot. I haven't really had any use cases. I think it'd be really cool to see how that works with images and like how you would understand. Like, would you use like an LLM that, or would you use like a visual model that basically takes the understanding of the image and then turns it into text? And it's like, say, hey, this image represents Christopher Columbus doing something bad, or this image represents ROG Strix G16 laptop or something like that. And then that's that's the embedding of it, and like the text version instead of the image. That's something that'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, but I do know for Astianis we do have like graphs and stuff like that. So I actually haven't tested how it performs on those graphs. I don't think in my head when I was making this, I never really considered someone like wanting to refer to a specific graph, but maybe that's the case. So I'll have to see. I don't think that's something I'm gonna get done before the end of the internship, but I do think that's something I could talk about. I really do wish something that does suck about the whole presentation is that it's a very short presentation. It's 5 minutes long. So then I can't really go into the technical weeds, but I think just talk about the technical stuff. As you can see here, it's just so much more fun because like there's so many stuff I would really love to try, or like so many stuff I could probably improve on. I think that's where a lot of the enjoyment for me is in. I do get like the point of being able to extract your technical projects to present to a more wider and diverse audience, but I really just wish I could do that. I could do that, but I could also go more technical for my final presentation. But I don't think that's going to be the case due to the time constraints. And there's no questions to be asked within the final presentation. So I don't think that's something that's like would even make sense because I couldn't even get the feedback. But maybe someone could follow up and say, hey, you're leaving the company after this week, but this is really cool. I think you should check this out. So who knows? But I think what I do have to do is I have to make sure the RAG file is uploaded on GitHub, but the RAG pipeline is not. So I want to make sure that's uploaded just so the more technical people or the people who are interested or curious can access it and give me feedback and take inspiration. Because that's something I did at the research symposium I went to a couple weeks ago. As I got inspiration from another project being done in our sister company or brother company or sibling company. ULRI, they were doing like some diff thing where it tested open source models in different domains. So I think one was math, one was biology or the medical field, one was coding. So I had their internal benchmark. I think that was really cool. I think the idea of how they made the benchmark is something I was really inspired by. So I want to try and do that by making a hub where people can submit like the questions they might have and the ideal answer and the ideal documents to reference or pull or retrieve. But yeah, that's where my head is at. That was my day. I think I went on a very long tangent, but it was really fun to talk about. So besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.